The defense chair was empty, and $600 million were about to go down the drain. The federal court of Denver had never seen so many people crammed into a single room. Reporters elbowed each other in the galleries, cameras pointed at every corner, and the air conditioning seemed to have given up, probably out of embarrassment for being present at this looming disaster. Caleb Lawson, the 36-year-old founder of Lawson Tech, crossed his arms and looked at the empty chair beside him. He was one of the most influential men in the U.S. technology sector, the kind of CEO who negotiated billion-dollar contracts over coffee. But at that moment, even Caleb was having trouble finding any humor in the situation. His lawyer, the renowned and incredibly expensive Robert Ashford, simply hadn't shown up. Ashford, the man who charged $3,000 an hour and bragged about never losing a case in 20 years, had evaporated. Judge Rebecca Doyle looked at the clock for the third time. She was the type of magistrate who made experienced lawyers rethink their career choices. "Mr. Lawson," she said, her voice cutting through the murmur of the room, "where is your legal representation?" Caleb stood up, adjusting his suit with the calm of someone who had faced worse crises. "Your Honor, it appears my lawyer had an unexpected setback." On the other side of the room, Prosecutor Mark Ellington crossed his arms with the satisfaction of a shark. He shaved his head every day because he thought it made him look intimidating. In reality, it just made him look like a billiard ball with an ego the size of Texas. "Your Honor," Ellington said, "if the defense can't even show up to their own trial, perhaps that's a silent confession of guilt." The judge struck her gavel. "Mr. Lawson, you have exactly 5 minutes to present legal representation, or this court will close the case due to absence of defense." Inside, Caleb's mind was working at maximum speed, searching for an exit. That's when the courtroom's side door was attacked by a hurricane in human form. A young woman burst through the entrance as if she'd been fired from a cannon. She wore a blazer that had seen better days, and she carried a leather briefcase that, at the exact moment she stumbled on her own heel, flew through the air like a drunk bird. Papers rained down the center aisle. The entire courtroom froze. The young woman fell to her knees, her glasses crooked, desperately trying to gather the documents while murmuring a symphony of apologies. One of the papers landed gracefully on Ellington's Italian shoe. "This here," Ellington said, holding the paper as if it were toxic waste, "is a cafeteria receipt." "It's supporting documentation," she snapped back, snatching the paper with the dignity of a cat that just fell off a table. Laughter erupted in the gallery. Judge Doyle removed her glasses. "And you would be." The young woman finally managed to stand up and adjust her dignity. "Maya Turner, Your Honor. Legal Department of Lawson Tech." "And what exactly are you doing interrupting my courtroom, Miss Turner?" Maya took a deep breath. She looked at the laughing reporters, the smiling prosecutor, and then she looked at Caleb. Behind the crooked glasses, Caleb saw something he didn't expect: pure determination. "I came to take over the defense, Your Honor." The silence that followed was thick. Then came the laughter. Prosecutor Ellington literally doubled over the table. "Is this a federal hearing or a prank show? The intern wants to take on a $600 million case." "I'm not an intern," Maya corrected. "I'm a junior associate. There's a difference." Maya walked to the defense table, ignoring the stares, and sat down next to Caleb. She whispered something only he could hear. "Stay calm, Mr. Lawson. Robert Ashford asked me to come." Before he could process that, Maya was on her feet again, facing the judge. Her posture had changed. Her shoulders were straight. Her eyes were fixed on the judge with an intensity that made Ellington stop laughing. "Your Honor, I understand that my entrance wasn't orthodox. But while the prosecutor was busy laughing, I was reviewing every page of this lawsuit, and I can assure the court that I am fully capable of conducting this defense." The judge struck the gavel. "The defense is authorized to proceed." Caleb leaned toward her. "Robert sent you." Maya nodded, organizing documents with newfound efficiency. "He called me at 5 in the morning. Said he couldn't come, but that I would know what to do." "And do you?" Maya raised her eyes to him. "I know that someone is trying to destroy you, Mr. Lawson, and I'm not going to let that happen." Ellington stood up, trying to regain control. 3 weeks at the company? And before that, you handled divorces and traffic tickets in Ohio? Miss Turner, can you even turn on your office printer? I'm genuinely concerned about your motor skills." More laughter. Maya felt her face heat up. For a second, she almost crumbled. But then she looked at Caleb. He wasn't laughing. He watched her with an expression that seemed to say, "I bet on you." Maya took a deep breath. "Prosecutor Ellington, I appreciate your concern. I'm happy to inform you that I can turn on printers, make coffee, and even tie my own shoes most days. But since we're clarifying things for the record, perhaps the prosecutor would also like to inform the court how long he's been practicing that intimidating speech in the mirror? Because the performance is flawless." Silence hit the room, followed by laughter directed at Ellington. The prosecutor's face turned beet red. "Enough theatrics," Judge Doyle cut in. "The prosecution may call its first witness." The trial had begun, and Maya Turner, the girl no one took seriously, was about to show the world exactly what she was made of. Maya Turner stood in the center of the courtroom, the silence echoing in her ears. She opened her folder to begin her opening statement, and her heart dropped. The documents were a mess, shuffled and out of order from her earlier fall. Contracts, financial reports, a random photo of a cat, and that damn cafeteria receipt. But the speech she had prepared? It was gone. Panic rose like ice water in her throat. The judge waited. The prosecutor wore a predatory smile. Maya looked at Caleb Lawson, and for a second, they shared a silent, desperate question. What now? Maya closed the folder. She stopped trying to be the perfect lawyer and simply started to speak from the heart. "Your Honor, members of the jury. I'm not Robert Ashford. I don't have 30 years of experience or an office overlooking Central Park. But what I do have are facts. And I will prove that Caleb Lawson is not the villain the prosecution wants you to believe." The courtroom was pin-drop silent. When she sat down, her legs were shaking, but her face was a mask of iron. "Where was that speech?" Caleb whispered. "I just made it up," Maya replied. Caleb let out a short, rare laugh. "Maybe I should have let my expensive lawyers disappear sooner." But the small victory was short-lived. During a 15-minute recess, Maya's phone buzzed. "Give up," the message said. Then another, "You don't know what you're getting into." Then came the photo. Maya felt the air leave her lungs. It was a picture of her mother's living room in Ohio, taken from inside the house. A silhouette was visible in the kitchen window. They were in her home. They were watching her mother. The phone slipped from her hand, scattering her papers for the second time. Caleb crouched down to help her, his formal tone gone. "Maya, you're pale. Is everything okay?" "Everything's great. Just gravity," she lied, but her hands wouldn't stop trembling. Caleb grabbed her hand. His grip was firm and secure. "If someone is threatening you, I need to know." "Robert Ashford never missed a hearing in 20 years, Caleb continued, his voice low like steel. "He didn't just decide not to come. Someone removed him. And now, they've turned to you." Maya looked out the window and saw it, a black SUV with tinted windows, parked across 2 spaces since the morning. Its headlights flashed once, a warning. She ducked into the hallway and messaged her mother. "Everything's fine, dear. I just made tea," her mother replied. But a second later, the unknown number messaged again. "She makes tea at 10:47 every morning. Easy to find." Maya leaned against the wall, gasping for air. She wanted to run. She wanted to take the first flight to Ohio and disappear. But then she remembered Robert's last words. "You'll know what to do. I trust you." She straightened her shoulders and walked back into the arena. "Maya," Caleb whispered as she sat down. "If you're in danger—" "I'm in the same danger as you, Mr. Lawson," she interrupted. "The difference is I don't have 600 million to lose. I only have a mother in Ohio who makes tea at 10:47 a.m. Caleb didn't respond with pity. His expression turned to cold, controlled rage. "Nobody is going to hurt your mother," he promised. "I will prove it." The trial resumed with the prosecution's star witness, Daniel Vance, the former CFO of Lawson Tech. He was polished, confident, and devastating. He claimed Caleb ordered him to alter financial reports and presented Exhibit 14A, documents with notes supposedly in Caleb's handwriting. Caleb shook his head. "I've never seen those in my life." Maya's brain raced. She remembered something. The night before, she had found a child's lunchbox with dinosaur prints forgotten in the office break room. Inside, hidden behind the coffee machine, was a flash drive with a small yellow sticker, "Truth." She had forgotten it in the chaos, but now her fingers found the cold metal in her bag. It was encrypted, and she didn't know what was on it. But as Ellington prepared to close his trap, Maya stood up. "Your Honor," Maya's voice rang out, stronger than ever. "The defense would like to present new evidence." The battle for the truth, and for her mother's life, had just reached a point of no return. "Objection!" Prosecutor Ellington barked, jumping to his feet. "The defense cannot present evidence that hasn't been catalogued." Maya Turner didn't flinch. "Your Honor," she said, her voice steadying, "this was discovered last night on Lawson Tech premises. Given the sudden nature of my involvement, there was no time. But its relevance is undeniable." Judge Doyle leaned forward, skeptical. "And what exactly is this evidence, Miss Turner?" Maya held up a small, metallic object. "A flash drive, Your Honor. Found hidden behind the office coffee machine, inside a thermal lunchbox." The courtroom went silent for a beat before a wave of snickering broke out. "A lunchbox?" the judge asked, removing her glasses. "What kind of lunchbox?" Maya felt her face burn. "A children's lunchbox, with dinosaur prints. Tyrannosaurus rex, specifically. Very well drawn, actually." Laughter exploded. Ellington seized the moment, mocking the ridiculous defense. But Maya didn't back down. "It's exactly where someone would hide something they didn't want found, prosecutor. Who looks for billion-dollar evidence behind a coffee machine in a child's toy?" The laughter died. The judge allowed the evidence. As the court officer plugged the drive into the system, the screens lit up with a digital trail that changed everything. Bank records showed that the financial reports were modified 3 months after Caleb supposedly touched them. And the IP address didn't belong to Lawson Tech. It belonged to their biggest rival, Crowell Industries. The room erupted. Daniel Vance, the star witness, turned ghostly pale. Caleb looked at Maya as if she had just performed a miracle. "How did you find that?" he whispered. "Luck," Maya breathed. But she knew better. Someone had planted that drive for her. Someone knew the clumsy intern would be the only one curious enough to open a dinosaur lunchbox at 11 p.m. Maya turned her fire on Vance. "Mr. Vance, you swore under oath these changes happened in March. But the metadata says June. And it says it was done from Crowell Industries, where you just happened to start working as a consultant 2 weeks after leaving Lawson TechCare to explain a $47 million transfer to the Cayman Islands." Vance was sweating, his polished facade crumbling. I refuse to answer on the basis of the Fifth Amendment," he finally stammered. The gallery went wild. The prosecution's star witness was pleading the Fifth to avoid self-incrimination. Maya had won the round, but the victory felt dangerous. Suddenly, the courtroom doors burst open. Jude Ramirez, a disheveled financial analyst, came charging in like he'd run a marathon, because he had. He tripped over his own shoelaces, sending a storm of papers flying into the air. One landed perfectly on Judge Doyle's head. "I found more," Jude shouted, adjusting his crooked glasses. "The bank transfers. I tracked them all. Crowell Industries sent $47 million in ghost transfers." In the chaos, Maya's phone buzzed. "Impressive," the message read. "But the witness was just the appetizer. Wait until you meet the chef." Maya looked out the window. The black SUV was still there. She knew she had just poked a monster much bigger than a $600 million lawsuit. During the recess, Maya made the hardest call of her life. "Mom, listen to me. Go to Aunt Carol's house. Now. Don't tell anyone. Don't ask questions." "Maya, are you in danger?" her mother asked. "Only if you don't leave. Finish your tea and go." "I love you." "I love you too," her mother replied, her voice turning to iron. "Now. Finish them." Maya hung up and turned to Jude. "Draft a sworn statement. Document every threat, every message, every photo. If something happens to me, this ensures the truth survives." She took a deep breath and walked back into the courtroom. She was no longer just a lawyer fighting a case. She was a woman fighting for her life. And she was done being afraid. Maya Turner felt her blood run cold as the courtroom doors swung open. Damian Crowell walked in like he owned the world. His gray hair was impeccable, his suit cost more than Maya's car, and his gaze promised nothing but destruction. He walked straight toward her, ignoring the reporters. The silence in the lobby was absolute. "So," he said, his voice as smooth as silk over steel. "You're the girl playing lawyer." "Junior associate," Maya corrected. "There's a difference." "Not to me." Crowell smiled. It was the smile of a predator. "You put on quite a show in there. But do you even know who I am?" Damian Crowell. The man whose bank transfers are causing quite an embarrassment in this courthouse. The glint in Crowell's eyes turned dangerous. He leaned in and whispered, "You're asking to get hurt. People much more powerful than you have tried to stand up to me. Do you know where they are now? They disappeared. Just like your friend, Robert." Maya didn't back down. She took a step forward, breaking his personal space. "Interesting. Because in the last 40 minutes, I've documented every single one of your threats and sent them to 3 different addresses, including this court's legal department. If anything happens to me or my mother, there will be a direct trail pointing straight at you." She looked him dead in the eye and delivered the final blow. "By the way, is that cologne expensive, or does it just smell like guilt?" Laughter erupted all around them. The powerful Damian Crowell had been publicly humiliated. He growled a promise of revenge and marched out, but Maya felt her legs begin to shake. Caleb Lawson approached and draped his jacket over her shoulders. "Provoking the richest man in the country? Brilliant," he said. Back in the courtroom, Prosecutor Ellington tried his last desperate move, a security video from a luxury hotel showing Caleb at an illegal meeting. The timestamp read 9:47 p.m. on March 15th. Caleb turned pale. "I was never there," he whispered. Maya studied the grainy image. Something was off. Her eyes raced across the screen until they stopped on a tiny detail, an antique wall clock in the background of the hotel lobby. "Your Honor," Maya interrupted. "The timestamp says 9:47 p.m., but the clock on the hotel wall clearly shows 6:20 p.m. There is a discrepancy of over 3 hours." The courtroom went into shock. Maya continued the attack. "Furthermore, the man in the video is wearing a navy blue suit. On March 15th, my client was at a conference in San Francisco wearing gray. We have hundreds of photos to prove it. Unless he has the gift of bilocation, this evidence was fabricated." "Who is this girl?" someone whispered in the gallery. "She's destroying him." Judge Doyle ordered an immediate investigation into the video's origin. When Ellington admitted the evidence came from Crowell Industries, the case's fate was sealed. The judge declared the evidence inadmissible and gave the prosecutor a final warning. At the end of the session, exhausted and trembling, Maya went outside to breathe the freezing Denver air. Caleb followed her. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "This morning, I was a junior lawyer who didn't even know where my desk was," Maya laughed without humor. "Now I have a psychopathic billionaire threatening me and a federal case on my back." Caleb stood beside her. "You're not alone, Maya. I'm here." For the first time on that endless day, Maya Turner began to believe she could not only survive, but win. The air felt colder as Maya and Caleb stood in the courthouse parking lot. Maya was just starting to breathe again when she noticed it, the black SUV. It wasn't just parked anymore. It was accelerating, straight toward them. "Caleb." Maya's voice caught. For a split second, she was paralyzed. Caleb reacted with lightning speed. He grabbed her by the waist and lunged to the side, pulling her onto the grass just as the SUV roared past, missing them by inches. The tires screeched as the vehicle sped away, disappearing into the city traffic. They lay on the grass, hearts pounding. Then, Maya started to laugh, a hysterical, adrenaline-fueled laugh. "What's so funny?" Caleb panted. "Look at us," she gasped. 2 adults rolling on the grass like a bad action movie. Caleb managed a small smile. "Well, it's a bit early for our first romantic scene, but at least the lighting is good." But the laughter died quickly. "Caleb, they tried to kill us," Maya whispered. "What if they find my mother?" Caleb took her chin gently, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I'm going to protect you, Maya. And your mother. I have the resources, and I keep my promises." "Why do you care so much?" she asked. "Because," Caleb said softly, "you risked everything for a man who was just a name on a lawsuit. It's been a long time since someone looked at me as a person instead of a bank account." Maya walked back into the courtroom with grass on her blazer and fire in her eyes. She wasn't scared anymore, she was furious. The defense calls Jude Ramirez as an expert witness, Maya announced. Jude didn't stumble this time. He opened his laptop, and the screens filled with graphs. He had found a pattern. Every time money was moved to the Cayman Islands, a corresponding transfer went from Crowell Industries to a shell company called Pinnacle Holdings. The director? Marcus Webb, Damian Crowell's brother-in-law. The gallery erupted. Maya turned to the prosecutor. Still think this is a circus, Ellington? Because your neck vein is throbbing more than my overdue rent. The courtroom broke into laughter, and the judge had to strike her gavel for silence. But the final blow was yet to come. Jude revealed that someone had tried to access the system 3 days before the trial. They left a hidden message in the code, "Look for the flash drive. She will know what to do." Maya's breath hitched. It was Robert. Robert Ashford had discovered the fraud, hidden the evidence in a T-Rex lunchbox, and disappeared before he could finish the job. He knew Maya was the only one curious enough to find it. The flash drive wasn't a coincidence. It was a legacy. Damian Crowell stood up abruptly, his face twisted in pure, concentrated hatred. He marched out of the room, the heavy doors slamming behind him like a funeral bell. Judge Doyle leaned forward. "Given this evidence, I am recessing until tomorrow morning. Mr. Ellington, I suggest you use this time to reconsider the prosecution's position." As the court cleared, Maya sat down, exhausted but victorious. The battle wasn't over, but the clumsy intern from Ohio had just brought a billionaire empire to its knees. The court is adjourned. As the gavel struck, Maya's legs finally gave out. Caleb reached for her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "You did it," he whispered. Maya shook her head. "Not yet. Tomorrow is the decision." "Maya." Caleb waited until she looked at him. "You dismantled their case. You exposed Crowell. You honored Robert. He'd be proud." "I wish he were here to see it," she said, her eyes burning with unshed tears. As they left the courthouse, the adrenaline faded, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. Caleb looked at her, his own suit wrinkled and hair out of place for the first time. "You can't go home today," he said firmly. "Not after that SUV in the parking lot. You're staying at my house." Maya tried to protest, but Caleb wouldn't hear it. "I have 12 guards and a security system that costs more than most mansions. It's the safest place in Denver. Please. I won't sleep knowing you're unprotected." They drove into the mountains in an armored sedan. Caleb's home wasn't the gaudy palace Maya expected. It was a modern masterpiece of glass and stone, blending into the pines. Inside, a fire crackled, and the smell of home-cooked food filled the air. To Maya's shock, the billionaire actually cooked. Over a simple plate of pasta, Caleb shared his past. Growing up in a tiny apartment, learning to cook at 10 because his mother worked 2 jobs. "I've always been the one taking care of things," Maya admitted, her voice trembling. "I'm not used to someone protecting me." Caleb took her hand. "Then get used to it. Because I don't intend to stop." Under the mountain stars, the tension of the trial finally snapped. Caleb leaned in. "This morning, when you stumbled into that courtroom, I thought my life was over. Now, I think it's just beginning." Maya let out a shaky laugh. "That is so cheesy." "I know," he whispered. Then, she kissed him. It was soft, a question that quickly turned into a promise. The next morning, Maya woke up in a room larger than her entire apartment. Hanging on the door was a perfect navy blue blazer and a silk blouse with a note. "I figured you'd need this for today. Breakfast is ready." Downstairs, over coffee and bacon, the atmosphere was different. The clumsy intern was gone. In her place stood a woman ready for war. "Today is the day," Maya said, looking at the man who had become so much more than a client. They entered the federal court of Denver together. This time, Maya didn't stumble. Her steps were firm, her shoulders square. The navy blue blazer fit like armor. She wasn't just a lawyer from Ohio anymore, she was the woman about to bring down a giant. The courtroom was a pressure cooker. Maya stood beside Caleb, their shoulders almost touching, a silent reminder of the promise they made under the stars. Judge Rebecca Doyle didn't waste time. "In the case of the state versus Caleb Lawson," she began, her voice cutting through the silence, "this court determines that all charges be suspended." Maya felt the air rush back into her lungs. But the judge wasn't done. She formally recommended a federal investigation into Crowell Industries for fraud and evidence tampering. Damian Crowell surged to his feet. his face a mask of fury. "This is a farce," he roared. "Sit down, Mr. Crowell." The judge snapped, her gavel striking like thunder. "One more word and you will be removed." Just as the tension reached its breaking point, the doors swung open. FBI agent Morrison marched in with a team. He revealed the final nail in Crowell's coffin. 2 men had been arrested in Ohio attempting to break into Maya's mother's house. Their confession? They were hired by Damian Crowell to intimidate the witness. The chaos was absolute. "Damian Crowell, you are under arrest for witness intimidation, conspiracy, and fraud," Morrison declared. Maya watched in slow motion as the handcuffs clicked around the wrists of the man who thought he was untouchable. As he was led away, the clumsy intern stood tall, watching the predator finally become the prey. After escaping a whirlwind of reporters, Maya and Caleb received a call that made their hearts stop. They rushed back to the office, and there, sitting in a lobby armchair, was a man who looked like he had crawled out of a nightmare. Robert Ashford. He was disheveled, exhausted, and haunted, but he was alive. "Where were you?" Maya cried out, torn between relief and anger. "I had no choice," Robert whispered. Crowell had sent him photos of his granddaughter at the playground. "Give up or they disappear," was the message. Robert knew he couldn't trust the police. Crowell had spies everywhere. "So I looked for someone outside the system," Robert explained, looking at Maya with immense pride. "I read an article you wrote in college about how justice isn't a luxury for the powerful. I knew then that you wouldn't give up. I hid that flash drive in the Dinosaur lunchbox because I knew you were the only one curious enough to find it." Maya laughed through her tears. The man had bet his life, his family, and his career on a girl from Ohio who stumbled over her own feet. "You're crazy," she sobbed, hugging him. "I'm a lawyer," Robert replied with a tired smile. "It's basically the same thing." 6 months passed like a dream. Maya Turner was no longer an intern. The plaque on her door now read Chief Legal Officer. She had her own corner office with a view of the mountains, but she still felt like pinching herself every morning. Jude Ramirez, now a manager who finally learned to tie his shoes, poked his head into her office. "Nervous for the press conference?" "A little," Maya admitted, destroying a pen cap with her teeth. Robert Ashford, back to his impeccably organized self, guided her to the stage. "Caleb wants you up there," he said with a mysterious smile. As Maya stepped onto the stage, the flash of cameras didn't scare her anymore. She looked at Caleb, the man who had saved her life in a parking lot and changed it forever. He was standing at the podium, ready to announce the future of Lawson Tech, but his eyes were fixed on her. The battle was over, the giant had fallen, and for Maya Turner, the real story was just beginning. Caleb stood behind the microphone, the spotlights illuminating his face. He looked calm, confident, and devastatingly handsome in the navy blue suit Maya had helped him choose. They had been officially together for 5 months. After weeks of working dinners that ended with kisses on the mansion's porch, Maya had finally admitted this was no longer just professional. Caleb had celebrated by ordering more wine, teasing her that she was the only person capable of making him wait so long for something so obvious. Watching him now, Maya felt her chest swell with a feeling that still caught her by surprise. Love. "Good afternoon, everyone," Caleb began, his voice filling the hall. "I know you came to hear about Lawson Tech's expansion, and we'll get to that. But first, there's something more important I need to do." Maya frowned. This wasn't in the script. 6 months ago, Caleb continued, I was sitting in a courtroom about to lose everything. And then, a woman came stumbling through the door with crooked glasses and papers flying everywhere, announcing she was going to save me. Laughter rippled through the audience. Maya felt her face burn. "I thought she was crazy," Caleb said, smiling. "And maybe she is, just a little. But she's also the most courageous and extraordinary person I've ever met. Maya, can you come up here, please?" Her heart stopped. Jude gave her a gentle nudge, and Robert Ashford smiled as if he'd known all along. Maya walked onto the stage with wobbly legs. When she reached Caleb's side, he took her hand. "Maya Turner," he said, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper. "You came into my life on the worst possible day and transformed everything. You taught me that trusting someone isn't a weakness." He let go of her hand and, to Maya's absolute shock, he knelt down. The audience held its breath. Caleb pulled a small box from his pocket, and a diamond ring sparkled under the lights. "I spent my life building a company," he said, his eyes shining. But only when I met you did I understand what's really worth building. A life. A family. A future. Maya Turner, will you marry me? The silence lasted only a second, but for Maya, it felt like an eternity. She looked at the man who had become her best friend and her partner. The man who cooked for her at 2 a.m. and protected her mother without a second thought. Did you rehearse this, or are you improvising like I did in court? She asked, her voice choked with emotion. Caleb laughed, tears welling in his eyes. A little of both. Yes, Maya sobbed. Yes, I will. The hall erupted in thunderous applause. Caleb stood up and kissed her, a kiss that tasted of tears, laughter, and promises. Flashes went off everywhere. Jude was shouting something incomprehensible in the background, but Maya didn't hear a thing. She only heard her own heart beating against Caleb's. I love you, Maya Turner. I love you too, Caleb Lawson, even though you're impossible. That's my charm, he whispered. 6 months ago, Maya had stumbled into a courtroom not knowing what awaited her. Now, she knew exactly where she belonged, in the arms of the man she had saved, and who, in every way that mattered, had saved her too.